Hey everybody, it is Dak here from the Ed Boys, and today we are checking out the new smithing minigame, Giant's Foundry. Upon completing the Sleeping Giants quest, you will have access to the Foundry where you can make giant swords for solid smithing XP gains and a few unique rewards. This is a more interactive way to train smithing than traditional anvil smithing, and a lot more fun than doing the blast furnace. So that Sleeping Giants quest, which is required to unlock the area, it all happens right at the Foundry, which is located east of Al-Kharid. It's very quick to travel there from either the Duel Arena teleport on the Ring of Dueling, or the Al-Kharid teleport on the Glory. The quest requires 3 oak logs, 1 wool, not a ball of wool, just a regular wool, 10 nails of any kind, a hammer, a chisel, and then a bucket of water or ice gloves, which are recommended for Giant's Foundry anyway. You want to have those ice gloves, it's kind of nice. You do need 15 smithing to be able to do this too. The quest really just gives you a rundown on how all the tools work, which we're going to be discussing anyway. It takes you like 10 minutes to get through the quest and you'll be on to the Giant's Foundry. So to start making a sword at the Foundry, you first need to ask for a commission from Kovac, and he's going to tell you what kind of sword to make, giving you 2 attributes, like heavy and sharp or flat and broad. Then you got to make your way to the mold, which is right by Kovac, and set a mold based on what type of sword he asked for. It's actually very straightforward. The interface is going to highlight in green what type of sword that you're trying to make, so any of the mold settings you have here, it'll show in green like the ones that you're looking for. You need to set a mold for the forte, the blade, and the tip. Basically, I just pick whichever one adds up to the highest number between the 2 attributes. Sometimes you get like 2 8s in the stuff you needed, so it's like worth 16 for that mold. But some of the molds you can get like 22 sharpness on it, so just a single, like, I don't know if it's better to actually have like an even amount in each type that you need. I just try to get the highest numbers. Once you've set the mold, you can run up to the bank and grab some bars. You can put 28 bars into the crucible. You can also put pieces of armor and weapons into the crucible, but you don't get quite as many bars out of them as you did like when you made them into something. So a plate body is not worth 5 bars. I still think you get 4 bars out of a plate body. This does mean that for like an Iron Man or a main account, you could smith all of your bars into plate bodies and then get even more smithing XP out of them here at the Foundry. I'm a fan of just tossing 14 of 2 different kinds of bars in there. I spent most of my time so far smithing with adamant and mithril, but I have messed around with rune and addy too. Once you put some bars or other materials into that crucible, you can pour it into the mold and then go pick it up. When you pick up the hot-ass sword, you'll suddenly get this interface to work with. This top bar shows the quality of the sword. Once you're at this point, this is like the max quality that you're going to get out of it. The top bar can only go down during this process. To set the quality is based off of what molds you set and what type of bars you're using. The middle bar is showing the current temperature of the sword. This is always going to start off full. And the bottom bar shows you what you have to do to finish the sword. The color of each segment on this third bar shows what temperature the sword has to be while you use that tool. There are 3 tools in the room that you fixed up during the quest. First, you have the trip hammer. The sword needs to be very hot for this, so in the red temperature zone to use the trip hammer. And while you use the trip hammer, the sword will cool down. The sword actually always slowly cools down over time, but it is very slow. Next, we have the grinding wheel. To use your sword on this tool without hurting the quality, it has to be in the yellow temperature area. And using the grinding wheel is going to heat up your sword while you do it. Finally, we have the polishing wheel. To use your sword on this, your sword has to be in the green temperature range, and using the polishing wheel is going to cool down your sword. To actually change the temperature of your sword, other than just like a byproduct of using those tools, you have to either use this lava pool to heat it up, or the waterfall to cool it down. For each of these, you can either just click on it for like a slow transition, or you can right click and dunk the sword into it, and the temperature will change very quickly. So now that you know how to use the tools, you can just work your way through this bottom bar of progress. So to start, the sword is going to be too hot to be able to use on the trip hammer. You always use the trip hammer first. Just quickly, you can dunk it in the waterfall to get it into the red temperature zone. You want to be right at the hot end of the red temperature zone, since it will be cooling down while you use the trip hammer. Without the smithing uniform, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you're not actually going to get through like one segment of the progress bar before you have to either heat up or cool down again. So you'll see me run over to heat up my sword a little bit and then run back to finish up my trip hammer. Next, we have the green segment, which is the polishing wheel, so I have to get the temperature all the way down to green, so I'm going to go ahead and dunk this into the waterfall. Also, at the polishing wheel, your sword cools down while you use it, so I want to be on the hot end of green, because I know my sword is going to be cooling down while I do it, so that way it doesn't get too cold while I'm making some progress. Again, it's very common to have to heat up or cool down your sword before you get through like one length of the progress bar. I don't think that'll be the case once you have the smith's uniform, though. So real quick, you'll notice the UI currently is highlighted in yellow. Occasionally, while you're working on a tool, it'll highlight in yellow, and if you click that tool again, right as that happens, that'll highlight green for a second, and then the next progress you get from that tool, it'll give you like a really good boost in that progress bar. Unfortunately for this one right here, I'm a little late. I would have to get over to the grinding stone since, as you can see, we're on that grinding stone segment, and I have to get the temperature up to yellow. So I have to go dunk the sword first, and the yellow box is gone by then, but I'll show another example of that in a second. For the grinding wheel, we have to heat up to the yellow segment, which we don't actually want to go to the hot end of the yellow segment because when using the grinding wheel, it actually heats up your sword. It's the only tool that heats up your sword while you use it. So we want to go just to the low end of the yellow like that. That way, while we're getting through the progress, it'll be heating it up, and we'll probably have to cool down one time, unless you get that yellow box again. So once we're done with that progress, and we're on to the trip hammer next, I'll just have to heat it up until it's in the red zone, and then go use the trip hammer, and it's just rinse and repeat until you have completed your sword. I want to use one more example of the yellow box, though. And that is it. You can see that the UI is currently highlighted yellow, so if I successfully click on the trip hammer real quick, the next bit of progress just made a pretty big jump on the progress bar. This way, I'm not going to have to heat it up anymore during the trip hammer. In fact, I'll be able to cool it down and go to the grinding wheel next. So like I said, just rinse and repeat until you're done with the progress bar. The reason there's so many segments on this progress bar was because it was a sword that was using adamant and rune. And so far, this was my record on quality. I feel like 200 might be the max, maybe a little more than 200, but this was a 199 quality. There are a few unique rewards that you can get from the minigame. First of all, let's talk about the molds. I do suggest that you buy all of the molds first if you plan on doing a lot of Giants Foundry. They are added to your mold selection, and you're going to start making better swords on average, speeding up the amount of points and XP that you get. There are 15 molds on the list, ranging from 300 to 450 points, for a total of 5,400 points to get all of the molds. It took me like 3 hours for all the molds using Addy and Myth until the last 30 minutes where I did Addy and Rune. I don't know the most efficient order or anything for getting the molds, but I do know that they help the overall gains while you're here, and they're pretty quick to knock out. There is an outfit in the rewards from Giants Foundry that I brought up twice before, the Smith's uniform. There's 4 pieces of the uniform totaling for 15,000 points to get the outfit. Each piece of the outfit gives a 20% chance to speed up anvil smithing by 1 tick, so this is like turning bars into plate bodies would be a little bit faster. But there's also a 20% chance to speed up progress during this mini game, which I did not know that for a while. There's only 4 pieces, but when you have the full outfit, the bonuses are boosted up to a 100% chance for those boosts. So it's a pretty interesting boost for smithing. I've yet to try it out since I don't have the points yet, though. For 5,000 points, you can buy the Colossal Sword. This sword is a slow, hard-hitting weapon with an interesting mechanic where it hits harder on larger opponents. The increase to max hit from this is apparently capped out at 10. Not like 10 max damage on the weapon, but 10 bonus damage from being a larger monster. At 2,000 points, we've got a double cannonball mole. Look at this bad boy. Simply, you just make cannonballs twice as fast with this, which for many reasons is one of my favorite things ever. For 300 points, you can buy Kovac's Grog, which gives a +4 temporary smithing boost. This is a tradable buy, but it is pretty cheap as it's not heavily needed. For 250 points, you can get an ore pack, which has 30 noted ores, including coal, iron, mithril, adamant, and rune. And the cheapest purchase in the store is the smithing catalyst at 15 points apiece. Having one of these in your inventory when you make bars at a normal furnace will cut the amount of coal that you need in half, similar to if you were doing blast furnace. They don't work at the blast furnace for cutting the coal down even more than that. They are stackable, and you use 1 catalyst for each bar, so you need a lot of them to get a lot of benefits, and they are untradeable. So far, the XP rates here have been very solid, though I've only tried with high-level bars. I was able to manage 190k XP an hour with mithril and adamant bars, and then more like 230 to 240k XP an hour when I was doing rune and addy bars. This could be sped up even more if I had my smithing outfit, the smithing uniform. You will be losing money while you do this, even though you get some coins at the end of it. It tends to not be nearly as much as those bars were quite worth, so it costs a little bit of money, but the goal that Jagex had in mind was to give us more smithing XP per bar, which with this we do get more smithing XP per bar. You're not using nearly as many bars per hour, and it's really not like that expensive. So far, Giants Foundry is a lot of fun compared to our other smithing training methods that we have. It's not quite as groundbreaking as Guardians of the Rift was at release, but I am a fan of this method for training your smithing. The rewards look fun to mess around with, so I'll be making more videos about it as I can buy more of them. I do like the idea of buying some molds with your reward points. I like the idea of spending reward points for permanent upgrades during the minigame. It's kind of like upgrading your levels at Barbarian Assault. Giants Foundry is very grindable overall, but you can get some solid enough XP rates that you don't have to spend forever here. You get a decent amount of points per sword too, like 150 to 200 for the high tier swords, and the swords take like 5 to 7 minutes, so you can crank out rewards pretty quickly, especially compared to like the Raiments of the Eye outfits from Guardians of the Rift, which admittedly is a lot more useful than the Smith's uniform, but I do like the uni. That is about all I had to say for my first look at Giants Foundry, everybody. It's a pretty cool update for smithing, giving us some unique rewards, too. I'm going to be knocking out these rewards to mess with a little bit, and I'm going to make a more legit guide on everything rather than just this brief rundown. And I'll probably accompany that with some, like, hour of videos to crank out some more examples on how to get solid gains here. Thank you very much for watching this first looks video, everyone. If you enjoyed the video or you just got some useful information out of it, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. I do stream on Twitch, which should be linked on the screen and in the description. I am also on Twitter and have a Discord, which are linked in the description. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and best of luck on your Giants Foundry gains.